Okay, so for the first question, according to passage paragraph 1, why did the fishermen perform elaborate rituals in the open sea but not in the lagoons? Can we keep in mind that okay, some things are so we want to keep in mind that this is not about open seas and lagoons. The importance of rituals is in the context of lagoons and open seas. Okay, so right, yeah, so okay, so let's see. Then you have use your own words as far as possible, which means that there's a high chance that this is a literal question. And as a reminder to everyone, use your own words as far as possible is a phrase that functions as a reminder that you need to paraphrase quite closely, okay? Because it's likely that there are specific details which you need to show that you understand the relevance of those details. Okay, then what else? There's the open sea versus lagoon. So this is definitely a contrast question. Okay, it is X, not Y. Okay, sea but not lagoon, X, not Y. So there's a contrast. So you need to show a couple of things. You need to show the contrast, okay, of the environment. You need to show that contrast in relation to the question about rituals. Okay, so some other things, if a question, so maybe there are two reasons, maybe, but you need to actually look at the paragraph, the passage, okay, and see what the paragraph offers. Okay, so scan through paragraph 1, and then it says according to paragraph 1, and then why. So that would be okay, because the question says according to paragraph why, right? So look at the relevant portions, okay, of paragraph 1, and I think you need to know when to stop. Okay, so maybe you can also think about knowing when to stop, because in paragraph 1 you also have indeed, do humans embrace rituals? Why do humans embrace rituals so fervently? And then is the next one already at the start of the new year. So definitely you need to cut before that. Okay, so that's how you select your okay, some other things. The fishermen, so this is the answer. They perform elaborate rituals to see because now optional for you to have that phrase in brackets, okay, but the key answer comes with elaborate rituals, right, is very, very necessary because it helps them to deal with danger in the open sea. Okay, correct. So it's about the importance of rituals. Okay, so so it's the open sea, how it's very rough, the seas are very rough, and therefore you don't trust that you are like humanly capable of doing of coming back safely, just in case, right? And then Pacific Ocean, because ocean, okay, so very, very dangerous in that sense, right? Okay, so the next thing that you want to look at, right, is for lagoons, right? Lagoons is a bit more placid, a bit more calm. Sorry, it's a lot more calm because it's actually protected by a body. It's like a protected body of water, so it's more calm. Okay, so you still need to talk about the relevance of rituals. Okay, okay. This one is okay. This one is okay. It's just for your information. Okay. Okay. Then after that, right, what do you need to do? So this is so you need that comparison. Then after that, right, according to this school, they mentioned this many candidates actually miss out on the fact that these elaborate rituals, right, are performed as a way to manage their fears of turbulent Pacific Ocean. So you cannot just like describe Pacific Ocean. Okay, you cannot just say that, oh, Pacific, yeah. Okay, you need to say that they are scared. That's why they need to do this, correct? Now, why do you need to say that? Because rituals is in it is the context of the importance of rituals. You know what I mean? So that therefore you need to actually talk about it. Okay, the other problem that the teachers mentioned was that they only mentioned the open sea, like they only mentioned the importance of having rituals before they go into the open sea, but they didn't talk about the lagoons. Now that cannot be, right, as in like that will not be a good enough answer because, right, if you look at the question again, it actually says they perform elaborate rituals in the open sea, but not in the lagoon. So it's definitely a comparison answer. So you have no choice, you must compare. Chiefly, you must compare. Then you must look at the passage, look for details, okay, to talk about those things, your comparison, and give your reasons. Okay, so in this case, the reasons, right? So it is not like two reasons, but there is like a comparison question. Okay. Okay. From paragraph one, so now we are go down to the later part of paragraph one. Suggests why effigies are burned during in Central and South Africa. So number one, I'm sorry, but this is like a vocab question of sorts. Not really particularly a vocab question, but if you do not know effigies, right, then it's very hard to imagine what's going on. Okay, so effigies, right, are these like paper mache huge figures. Okay, so they are burned during New Year in Central and South Africa. Okay, so the first three pictures, right, are more relevant to Central and South Africa. But I thought if you understand what effigies are, then I can quickly think about the Singapore context, right? Or yeah, we also burn effigies, but not so popular in New Year's, right? But it's more like I think Hungry Ghost Festival, right? The burning, or sometimes I think we burn for certain religions during funerals, okay, by way of yeah, something like this, right? So I think once you know this, you can like draw some context like immediately, okay? So you need to kind of like know what effigies are. So they ask you to suggest. So this is actually an inference question, but it's highly dependent on your knowledge of what effigies are. Plus, you need to possibly go to the passage. Why? Because they actually tell you to commemorate, right? To commemorate another trip around the sun, right? So it's the Earth going around the sun, right? So it's like to commemorate another year. I actually am a bit glad that they asked about burning of effigies rather than eating of grapes lah. Okay, because I think eating of grapes, right, is even more far away yeah, we don't even know. Okay, what do you mean by grapes? Okay, but I went to go and like Google a bit. So actually, they eat something like 12 grapes. Must eat like 12 grapes to commemorate the new year. Then you can think about 12. Why 12? Okay, the significance of 12. So 12, right, is because there are like 12 months in a year. So it's like, you eat one grape, okay, so that your next year, every month will be better. But why not eat like 365? Okay, but anyway, that is just like, okay, so that's the mythical, I mean, yeah, so that is that's the practice that they do lah. That's their rituals in that part of the world. Okay, so I'm glad they didn't ask us about grapes, okay, but yeah, so effigies theoretically should be more familiar to us. Okay, so yeah, to suggest and then actually I think we keep going back to rituals, the value of rituals. Okay, so using rituals to cope. Okay, so I think with the year that has passed, right, so maybe it was a horrible year, okay, or old stuff, and you're looking forward to the new year. So actually, right, strangely or maybe not strangely, any looking forward to, because it's just imagination, right, and hope and optimism, so confirm it'll be better, okay, than the year that has passed, usually lah, because we just look forward to it, okay, and then you are still very young, but there are some years that are just difficult. Okay, so yeah, this is yeah, okay, so this is the humanity thing, right? So you need to talk about this. So you burn the effigy. So tip, yeah, effigy to drive away bad luck or remove misfortunes, okay, and any stuff that you don't want from the previous year lah, right? This reminds me of a friend who says that she would go and throw away her medicine because she got different illnesses lah. So you have to like walk past, as you walk past a bridge. So she had to find bridge and then she throw away medicine. But this is Chinese New Year. But it could have gone into my uh AQ response also. Okay, yeah. So oh dear, most responses were incorrect because students thought that it was to show the passing of seasons. So this is not like the passing of winter, then you want spring to come, that kind of thing, right? Because I think the hint there is actually there are two hints. One, at line 9, they commemorate. Okay, so if I think you understand that, right, that means yeah, so it's like the passing of a year, a previous year, and then your New Year activities, right, are all your New Year resolution. So it's like the looking forward to the New Year leh. And then you have fireworks. I mean, so all these are about hope, right? Because there's light and it's pretty and all these things, isn't it? Okay, so yeah. So your looking forward is one thing, but your effigies, the burning of effigies is the burning of things of the past. Okay, yeah. Okay, so burning of effigies is not a positive. It's not a positive thing. Yeah, I don't know how to say, but it's just common knowledge. It's not a positive thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Correct, right? Like you want to make a picture of me, then you go and burn it. I know you. Yeah. Okay, yeah, something like that. Okay, 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 okay. Okay, yeah, correct, right? In Chinese, it's like 打小人, right? Yeah, something like this. Okay, okay, okay. So, okay, this word, question 3, you may want to look out because not so many people did well. So, why does the author use the word faithful to describe the decision, okay, to live in a bigger groups? So, faithful here is not inevitable. Can you check your answer? If you say inevitable, um, 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 gone already, something like this, okay? So maybe you thought it's inevitable because it sounded like one thing led to another from the passage lah. Okay, because before that they have social rituals originated when they start living together. So it sounds as if like one thing led to another. So you think that it's inevitable. Number one, number two, the word faithful sounds like fated. You're fated with someone like in together. Okay, so but it's not lah. Okay, so I think you need to have like a sense of how the word is normally used. So it's like on the faithful day or on that faithful day. Well, if you say on that faithful day, I know that you're going to tell me something bad that will happen, you know. So it's how that word is typically used in a phrase, you know, like on that faithful day kind of thing. Yeah. So it's not about how it is fated, but it's just nasty things that happen. So in that sense, right, it has a bit of vocab, a little bit. Okay. So yeah, if you say like he made the fateful decision to send in the troops, means that I think you can tell that it's not a victory lah. Okay, cannot make it. Okay, something like this lah. Okay, then you also have use your own words as far as possible. So it's a reminder to paraphrase. And then at the top you have why, so you give reasons. Okay, so you need yeah, you need to give reasons. So maybe you want to see the answer. Let's see. Your focus should be after this phrase and not before. Okay, so it's like after you made the decision, right? Then what happened? Okay, rather than because of other things, then oh, it's inevitable. Okay, so yeah, so it's that fateful decision led to what? Okay, so disastrous, catastrophic. So there are some options, but you don't need to use all of them. Okay, so has exposed humans to all kinds of violence and conflicts, okay, and wars. So actually there are two things. I think number one, I mean, if you look at the passage, it's like violence, let me see, uh, yeah, if you look at the passage at line 15, right, it's all kinds of violence and diseases. Okay, one set, violence and diseases. Then after that, right, there's a comma at line 15, and then it's like conflicts to infectious diseases. So your violence matches conflicts, your diseases matches infectious diseases, right? So it's not just diseases, but it's infectious. So because they live so closely to one another, they are more likely to have problems. Okay, maybe disagreements about the use of land space and things like this. Okay, so they fight. Correct. So that's one. Then the other one, right, is infectious diseases. So when they live closer together, it's more likely that infectious diseases will spread very quickly, and therefore you need to paraphrase these words. Must paraphrase spread, you must paraphrase swiftly. Yeah. Okay, so you must do these things. Okay. Yeah. So this is from the school. So the school mentioned, okay, that conflicts was lifted a few times. I think it's easy to paraphrase. You can just say battles, okay, or yeah, or aggression, right? Battles or aggression. Okay, so conflicts. So you must paraphrase that. Just a reminder. Okay, moving along. Question 4. Oh, question 4. Can you ignore the thing on the right? column, okay, just ignore it lah. Okay, we want to focus on my answer. Okay, so in paragraph 2, right, what does the author mean when she describes human mind as nimble and whimsical? Okay, so this is like the example. Okay, this, hey, come on, we need to be like familiar with this. It happens a few times already. As in this question is kind of like repetitive style, okay? It's not even grammatically correct, but anyway, so we are looking at the use of words, right? So nimble and whimsical, what does the author mean? So you need to explain the meaning of nimble and whimsical in the context of the passage. Okay, you cannot say that, oh, okay, I'll tell you what I cannot say later. But so many of us know the meaning of nimble, meaning quick. Okay, so meaning quick, right? So you need to show your understanding of nimble, and both are positive, I feel. They must be positive because this author likes rituals. And then this author is talking about how rituals were used to manage a problem. So obviously she likes rituals, right? So your answers cannot be neutral. Your answers cannot be negative. You must be at least positive. And then we look at some other things. Okay, so humans quickly divide. So that's nimble, like we quickly think of something, right? And then after that, whimsical would be unusual. Okay, so unusual because it's a bit whimsical. Okay, so you look at this picture of a bird here. This like this one here, right? The colorful one. So this is a bit whimsical because you know what I mean? It's like kind of different from there's something imaginary about it. There's something unusual about it because that's not typically how we see a bird, right? Okay, so that are the answers that they are looking for. Whimsical in the context of this passage, right? It's a bit quirky, it's a bit unusual. Okay, they are not really looking for creative. Although my picture here of this bird, this singular bird, maybe it looks creative because you've never seen it before. Okay, but that is really not the example. That's not really the author's meaning that they want. Okay, therefore, yeah, it's not accepted. Okay, now if we go and look at this side, which is like this little column here, um, and then you see the two birds, right? So there are various explanation of the word whimsical. Okay, and you even have erected, you have yeah, but can you minus away from this like possible choice? Can you take away possible answers that look negative? I only want positive answer because that is the part that the author wants to express. That is something um that is positive. Okay, so and therefore I will reject negative possible meanings. You
I
know,
can't. Wait, there's a lot of mobs. Let me kill them first.
there's a lot of what?
That's him to mute.
Oh, okay. So if you have questions, you type it in the chat, okay? Then other teachers will try to answer your questions. Okay, so right, after you talk about the two meanings of the words, right, I need the contextual meaning. Okay, so it's like, why does it need to be whimsical? Okay, then you need to tell me that, oh, they need to deal with the potential calamities. People, this is the part that sometimes you don't have in your answer. Prelims was like that. Can you not repeat? Okay, that means the meaning of the word is one thing. How it is used in the passage, you need to actually explain it. Okay, can so I'm going to move on, okay? Okay, so how does the example, okay, in paragraph 3 illustrate the importance of rituals? So this is like, you know, it's like your peel structure, right? So your point, your elaboration, and then your example. So how does the example prove the point, right? So you are familiar with this, okay? Then use your own words as far as possible. So there must be at least 2 points. So how do we know? So you must basically know two things. You must know the point about rituals, okay? You must, because it just says the importance of rituals. So it is your job to go and find what's so important about rituals, okay? And then link it to the example. This is like the other way around, right? Compared to essay writing. So you need like, yeah, you need to go and find the point that the author is trying to make. The author is making. Okay, so from this example, you can see that he is already. So let us get our sequence in order. It's not that Okay, we do not know whether he had all these rituals, that's why he became a winner, but definitely he is a winner. Can you see like how it is described? He's a winner. So after his name, then you have the comma, which means that it describes his the importance of him as a winner. So he has 20 titles, and then as many almost as many as 20, okay, which is 19. So before he plays a match, he has 19 things that he must do, and possibly in a specific order. Then he's ready to start. Can you see the importance of rituals to him? It's like he almost believes that if he doesn't do this, he ain't going to win. Okay, so so it's very, very important to him. So it shows that he is not complacent. Why? And that he believes in rituals. So he already is a top winner. Okay, you can use some other words. I just don't want to put too many options there. It's distracts us. Okay, so he's a top winner. He wins, and yet, although he's a top winner, right, he still has all these rituals. Okay, many rituals, and then all these help him to manage his stress and improve his achievement. So how you get the hints from the passage, right, would be like, yeah, these are the lines where you can get the meaning of these words. Okay, then after that, right, this is from the school. So they said somehow or rather, students didn't talk about how he was a talented player. Like they didn't even say, but I think we must, because it actually shows that he's like super competent. He's not like you and I, okay, but yeah, so he's like super competent, and yet he performs these rituals, okay, like quite religiously, okay, quite regularly, quite frequently, okay, showing that he really believes that it works on. Okay, right, correct. Okay, next, paradox. Okay, paradox, right? You need to have a sense of what paradox is in the first place. So go and revise the meaning of paradox if you are not sure. Okay, but paradox, and I gave you a meaning there. Okay, so in case you're not sure, so it's a situation or statement that seems impossible or difficult to understand because it contains two opposite facts or characteristics. So the key thing is you must go and create that opposition. Okay, so that sense of like what is up against what is opposite from what. Okay, and typically, right, I like to use this structure. Okay, so while it is expected that blah blah blah, in reality it is not. Okay, if you can find what you can find that characteristics, then you go and see in the passage, right, is there an opposing thing that he's talking about. Okay, so something like this, and then it is lines 49 to 51. For this question, the school was also not very sure why things happen now. Okay, what students did, right, was they went to search for the beginning of lines 49. So they went to, so their answer started with even, and then it ended, yeah, so it started with even. So I think it got quite confused for some students. Okay, so let's see. So it should start with paradoxically. Okay, so paradoxically, rituals involve pain, injury, trauma, blah blah. So you need to say that in this is true. So what are we at? We are at the importance of rituals, right? Okay, then one would expect that rites involving, so this is my answer, because I feel that yeah, so typically rituals have pain, rituals that makes it like a bit, I mean, it seems to be painful or it causes some injury, etc. Typically, it should distress us. Okay, so this is my inferred answer, because if there's a pain, right, I shouldn't be joyful about pain, correct or not? So, with pain, right, and how do I come to think about this answer? Partly because there are two things. One, psychological advantage. Two, happiness. So they didn't leave you high and dry. If you do not know what the psychological advantage was, if you read after that, then you understand that, oh, psychological advantage could be that happiness. Okay, so there is some kind of happiness that you get. Okay, so the way I see it would be that while we think that rights involving these activities may make us scared, okay, may cause us some distress, but in reality, right, it could result in greater joy or benefits after we overcome it, something like this. Okay, so that's my explanation for how I came to this answer. Then from the school's perspective, right, they said that a number of responses look at the start of line 49. So I think this is a warning to some of us because you are not unique for some of you. So it's a common mistake, but it's a mistake that we try to avoid. Okay, so I will have one last reminder later on at the end of my section about like looking at line reference. But if you want more attention on line referencing, can you look at last week's recording of last week's mock paper, okay, because I said some things there as well. Okay, so the examiners are also looking for these, okay, yet or however, but I mean, you know, they mean the same thing, okay, but I mean, it needs to be there because you cannot use and. It doesn't make sense to use and because it's paradox. So there's a contrast. You need to give me that sense of contrast. So if it's not contrasting and if it's a 1-mark question, you may lose the entire thing. Okay. Um, oh, funky, nice question. So why has the author written spiritual practice inverted commas? I think at this juncture, right, you can see how, okay, so yeah, this is a use of inverted commas, but I would like you to see how open-minded. So as long as like there are possible ways of interpreting the text, right, we'll accept that, which is not bad, right? So so let's see. Oh, maybe you want to say that spiritual practice is an unconventional way of seeing something, okay? Because he's using this in a secular context. That's possible. You can say that she's directly quoting a term. It is also possible, okay, because this is the author talking about Beyonce, right? So it could be Beyonce calling it a spiritual practice. So the author is quoting Beyonce, also possible. So these are all possibilities, okay? So I suppose the message here is also that you don't need to second guess yourself because it's 1 mark, right? You don't need to say, oh, there are so many things, which one the author, which one they want, okay? Because these are all possible, okay? You can also say that the author is skeptical that this has anything to do with religion. Okay, I mean, these are all possible answers. Okay. I would like you to focus on this. Okay. Can we try our best not to say that the author is being sarcastic? Because right, if the author is, I mean, you follow the logic, right? If the author is being sarcastic, then you're saying that the spiritual practice is fake, like not, it doesn't really work, But that would then go against the author's intention to tell you how wonderful rituals are. So I wouldn't use sarcasm here. In some other contexts, maybe when they use inverted commas, like sometimes with our friends, ha ha ha, you're so funny. Okay, maybe lah in that context, okay. But in this context, right, that the author is very upbeat, okay, about the use of rituals. So I don't think he's being sarcastic, really, really, really. Okay, so which is why I think right from the start, we try to figure out the author's intentions, the author's stand right from the start, so that we are more likely to be correct, okay, in our interpretation. Okay, next. How do the two examples in lines 74 to 82 illustrate the dangers of rituals? So, you need to actually go and figure out what are the dangers of rituals. They didn't tell you, so it's your job to find out, okay? And the text may actually tell you, okay? So use your own words as far as possible, which means that there may be some words that you could be tempted to lift, but please don't lift, okay? So so this is similar to question 5, just saying so that you can identify similar question types. Okay, so which means that when you see something like this, you need 2 things. One, you need the relevance of the examples, which you cannot really make sense unless you know the point, which is like the topic sentence, right? Okay, so can you maybe for this question, so I'm just like reminding you that for this question, for line reference, right, they say 74 to 82, 74 to 82. So 74. So you want to see that it starts with for groups, rituals can be about it doesn't start with this spike. Okay. And then okay, so it ends with physical harm. Okay, so right, you can see that for each of these, right, it's actually matched. Actually, okay, what do I mean? So there are two examples. One is hazing, okay, during orientation activities. I should have look for some pictures. But anyway, so one is like hazing. Then the other one, right, is self-flagellation. Okay, like you whip yourself. Hey, don't do that, but this is what happens in terms of rituals. Okay, yeah. Okay, so what are the dangers of hazing? And then you link it to how they may feel degraded or humiliated. Sorry, degraded and humiliated have been used in the text. You go find some other word. Okay, so basically they feel very ashamed of themselves. They feel that they are demeaning. Okay, so there's another thing, right? Until like death, so we may also allow you to use the word die because it's very hard to paraphrase. Okay, yeah, something like this, right? So the next one, self-flagellation, it can cause a major injury. Okay, so yeah, so, or please look at it entirely, as in like, if you use the word hazing or self-flagellation in your answer, you still need to show me that you understand the meaning of these words. Okay, so your reading of the note there has to be complete. Like if you mention it, it must be because subsequently you explained it. Okay, so that's that. And then this is from the school. They said that a number of responses didn't specify the examples. So they need you to specify the examples. They need you to link it to the point, which is okay. I mean, it's totally understandable, right? Totally doable. Okay, question 9. How do modern medicine, explain how modern medicine is similar to rituals and how they are different. And it's 2 marks. So you can figure out, right? This is about similarities and differences. And the funky word that we have here is opaque. What does opaque mean? Now, we may not know it on its own. If we are lost, right, we try to think about the opposite. So opaque, something that is like opaque versus translucent versus clear. Okay, so it's just what the mechanisms of modern medicine are just as not clear. Okay, just as vague law. Okay, yeah, something like this. That means people cannot really figure out the entire thing. Okay, therefore, yeah, so it's not clear. Okay, so your answer needs to be paraphrased. Okay, so they don't really know what's going on, no? Right? And then some other possible answers. Rituals are ancient, so it has been passed down. Okay, but modern medicine, right, is only recently developed, so it's novel. So you just need these two concepts to make sense of it. And you do not need to go on. But if you have any of you have answers, right, that go beyond this line 87, right, maybe you can text us because I thought there are other possible answers, but I didn't want to add anything else here. I mean, we have enough. Okay, yeah. Oh, the last one is super interesting already, right? I mean, like you have done this so many times over. So we either sometimes ask you, how is it effective introduction? How is it effective conclusion? You're familiar. Okay, so you just need to look for hints. Okay. Then okay, so this one is the moving forward, what we should do kind of thing, right? So it's your call to action, which you can also use for your own conclusion, right? So moving forward, what we should do, this inclusive we have done it like so many times over already. Okay, so this is another possible way of doing it. Okay, so you want to create a sense of inclusiveness, and then can you see the context? So I don't move on to the third one yet, but can you see contextually it needs to be there. Okay, I will explain again. Okay, so and then you have the fisherman. Okay, so the fisherman just links back to the introduction, right? So you want to say, oh, you're actually closing the loop, from the opening, right? So yeah. Then there's also something a bit metaphorical, which is like steal us for the rough seas, the steal, right? So it's a bit metaphorical. So you can say the metaphorical use of the phrase steal us for the rough seas. Okay. Okay. And then your rough seas is like you need to try to explain it a little bit, right? So it's like tough, uh, tough situations ahead or dangerous times, right? So you are reminded of your Pacific Ocean, your big waves. Okay. Then there's also another thing. If you actually caught this and then you say, oh, we should adopt pre-performance rituals, okay? So you can say that, oh, this author is reminding us of how we actually use, the author is using relatable examples. So maybe it's not relatable to you because you don't know, but never mind, because then you wouldn't have picked this point, but it's okay. It may be relatable to other people. I think students who play rugby, for example, or schools who pride themselves in rugby, they are familiar with this because they will then have the haka dance before they actually, it's like the warrior dance, you know, they want to scare your opponents, right? So they will be familiar with this. Then they can use, but if you don't know, it's okay. You have other options, okay? So just one last thing here, they actually said, right, that they did not give the context. So context is important. You cannot, your answers cannot exist by, oh, he's using relatable answers, examples, or oh, he's actually using the, well, the inclusive we. You can't do that. Okay, why? Because those fixed formulaic answers are good for to get you halfway there, but you still need to, the other half is you need to show me that you understand the compre passage. So in the context of the passage, what does it mean? Okay, so make sure that you give me the whole thing, the technique and then the context. I'm not unique, okay? So the examiners are all looking for something like that. So final reminders, final reminders, use your own words as far as possible, right? Functions as a reminder to paraphrase for that question. Why? Because it's likely that it's literal, so you may be tempted to lift. Okay, yeah. It's not for you to infer that phrase as, oh, for other things I can just lift. It's not like that. Okay, because there's an overarching statement at the beginning of a comprehension that says that language marks will be affected. You can go and find that phrase. Okay, line referencing, also just as a reminder that it starts at the beginning of the relevant sentence of that line. Okay, so this is a picture for you to see that it starts at paradoxically, it ends at them. Okay, the yellow ones. It does not start at even, which is the beginning of that line, because it's an irrelevant sentence, and it does not end at they, because that's irrelevant. So you have to look for A, where is the relevance, and then you cut. Okay, so that's, and then the last one is just a final reminder that everything must be linked back to the author's message, the topic, the author's intention, the author's stand. Okay, so you cannot leave your answers in a vacuum because we are interested in your understanding of this specific comprehension, and then the relevance of be it the questions and all that is in relation to this specific comprehension. So it cannot be left in a vacuum. Okay, so I've come to the end of the SSQ. Yeah, and then I'll pass the time over to Mr. Ang. Let me stop sharing. Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm here to cover the summary and the AQ with you guys. Let me test out whether I can draw. Okay, yes. Right. I think for summary, right, it's very important for you to take note that it comes from 6, because there are some instances where students actually looked at the wrong paragraphs and then they really go into they lose a lot of marks. Okay, and then the next thing, the instructions. All right, look at the benefit. So you're looking at value, the value of rituals, or the worthiness, the worth of rituals. All right. So when you are looking at text, right, I think a lot of us face trouble when we kind of like overly capture irrelevant material. So please do practice a little bit more and just be mindful that you're looking really at benefits. So anything that signals the value of rituals would be something you want to take. Now, what are some of the things that the next step that you want to think about would be to be as precise as you can when you capture any points, all right? Because that's what we are looking for. We are looking for a kind of like almost a 90% degree of accuracy, right? So you want to, in doing so, all right, look at whether they are intensifiers. Okay, I think Ms. Tan talked about it last week. So high or low intensity. All right, you're looking at modifiers, greater amount or fewer or lesser. You also want to pay attention to connotation. Remember, I think she drew a smiley face, if I'm not wrong, right? And a sad face as well. Here you go, right? So positive connotation to positive connotation must be kept. You cannot say something like fragrant and then you say, you paraphrase it with stench. That's totally wrong, right? Now, additional tips is that we tend to mark chronologically. Okay, so don't jump around. So I think some of you all like to combine maybe point B and then you combine point J together or point X together, So try not to do that. Try to follow it grammatically, follow the points grammatically and chronologically. Now, we credit accuracy in capturing the arguments. Okay, hold on. Okay, in capturing the arguments, both the main idea, nuances, and context. So nuances, for instance, all these. Okay, get a bit messy, so I'm going to erase. All right. So please just take note. Do not be too careless or vague in the way you're paraphrasing. Must be quite specific. All right, and accurate, right, to the author's argument. Okay, moving on. We're going to look at some of the points that are available. Okay, so when you read chronologically, right, you will realize that the first point came in this part, A, purpose. Okay, so rituals are purposeful. Now, purposeful has the idea of having meaning, right? So that is already telling you that there is value. Okay, so you want to keep that, okay, value. All right, so purposeful meaning utility, value, worthwhile, serve our goals, etc. Okay. For point B, reinforce a sense of community and common beliefs. Definitely yes, right? So reinforce, amplify, strengthen, encourage. All right. I think you want to be careful. All right. When you paraphrase a sense of community, right? You don't want to word for word. You become so weird and awkward, right? A sense of community. How will you paraphrase that? An idea of social bond. So word for word sometimes does not bring about any profitable response. Okay, so just try your best. Okay, you would think about you can use the word societal bonds, right? So encourage societal bonds and common beliefs, common, shared, okay, beliefs, ideas. All right. So you can see the precision that we kind of like expect already by now, right? That you have a keyword, I must be able as a marker to see the keyword being reflected in your response. If I cannot reverse engineer your original word, then you probably will lose the mark. Okay, right. Moving on. Okay, so this whole section here, nothing much. All right, it's just a lot of stuff that are irrelevant. Talking about alienation and separation, so very negative, so not needed. Okay, but the next thing, value, right? Avoid disaster. So when you say avoid disaster, so you can say the avoid means to stop something from happening, to prevent or to keep something at bay, right? And then you want to talk about disaster. So the degree is quite high. So you cannot use like avoid problems, you cannot use something low intensity like that. So it must be equally intense. Yeah. E, okay. Ritualization may also have helped human cultures maintain behaviors that people thought would keep them safe. Okay. So maintain behaviors, right, is really the idea that you are sustaining some form of actions, all right, that will keep you away from danger. You can say away from danger as well. All right, so you see when you paraphrase, right, sometimes you use a synonym if you have it. Sometimes you can use 1 to 2 to 3 words or a short phrase to capture the meaning. What we give, remember again, is precision. All right, we give marks for you to be if you're accurate. Okay, now the next one, many rituals also provide psychological comfort during times of hardship. Again, this is very much a value, so provide psychological comfort, provide us with some form of calm, enhance our mental well-being, keeps us free from nervousness, etc. And all this I think we will give. All right. When we are facing adversity, difficulty, suffering, again, hardship. All right. It has to be slightly higher intensity because you won't say something like how would I say, I'm not able to buy my daily cup of coffee. I won't consider that hardship. All right, it's a problem, but it's not a hardship, right? So hardship has to be stronger, all right, in terms of its degree. Okay. Now comes the next point. Now, some of you might just take this as a new point, but if you were careful enough, you will realize that this is actually repeated point B, right? Because it helps bring people together, and this is the idea of community. Okay, so repeated points, no need to take. All right. So the next point is that simple rituals can be extremely effective. Now, already this one tells you that the degree is very high. So extremely effective, you want to say, right, really, really useful, all right, in lowering our anxiety, in our fear, nervousness, worries, and ease, all right, or discomfort. Okay. H, paradoxically, rituals involving pain, injury, or trauma. Now, all these actually are not needed, you know. I would just directly go into the value itself. All right. You want to keep it, I think it's fine, but you don't want to like word for word swap everything. You can just generalize them. All right. Okay, so some type of psychological advantage. Again, all right. This idea here, all right, is that those people who practice all these rituals, you gain a mental advantage over others who do not perform them. So you have a higher degree of mental strength, a higher level of mental strength. That's why there's this idea of greater or stronger. All right, because of the context that is comparing you to other people who do not perform all these rituals. Okay. So greater, stronger, mental strength, 42. All right. The next point is a repeated point. Cope with some of the most challenging periods is a repeat of point F, which says provide psychological comfort. Okay, here cope with the most challenging periods, I think is the idea that you give you some form of psychological comfort during hardship, all right, in terms of hardship. So this will be a repeated point. Now, end-of-life rituals can also create stronger connections between the dying and their loved one. Now, this one, some people say, hey, sure, isn't this a repeat of point B, the community point? But no, this is between your immediate loved ones, right? So the community point is really about, I think, a societal level. So this one is another idea. And some more specifically, they tell you it's between the dying and their loved ones. All right, so stronger connections between dying and loved ones, so establish greater bonds. Between, now this is very important, you have to tell me that it's between A and B, party A and B, all right? To keep the idea of the author. Okay. Now, some of you would think that, or are still holding on to the misconception that examples do not have points inside. No, that is not true. Okay, you have to also realize that Cambridge likes to also insert relevant points in the example. So you want to read the passage really, really carefully. All right. So in 2014. Researchers found that grief was lower. Okay, so this is a benefit already. All right, reduction in sorrow or anguish. All right. So it's not surprising that rituals are therefore used to create some form of order to regain control. So the idea here is that you use rituals in time when you're feeling very sad, all right, to regain some form of power over your own lives. Okay, so if you say semblance of order, you can say some form of stability. All right, and then for the regain control, you can talk about it as bring back, all right, power, okay, over your own lives. Okay, this is the inferred point. Restore a sense of normalcy. I think AC accepted this as well. Okay. Next point, M, personal growth and development. All right, are used, rituals can also facilitate personal growth and development. So another benefit. So personal, all right, something to do with our own selves. All right, so growth and development upgrade. All right. And mark personal milestones and achievement. Now, milestones are little stones, in literally, they are little stones that marks how far the distance that you have traveled. So when you talk about personal milestones, right, you're actually looking at significant events that shows you how far your life has progressed. So important events, okay, to commemorate or celebrate. All right. So commemorate or celebrate important events in your life. So in your life. Okay. Achievements. Okay. And accomplishment as well. So mark milestones, personal milestones and achievements. So achievements, very simple. Okay. Accomplishments. All right, in our lives. Okay. P. They provide a symbolic way to let go of old patterns and embrace new one. Now, this one is the idea of you letting go of your old behavior, all right, your old way of life, all right, and move on to new ways of life. Okay, Ken? Now, the rest are all repeated points, all right? Transition from one stage of life to another, all right, is the idea of milestones, all right, because it's talking about significant moments where you progress within your life itself. So maybe you, for example, a milestone will be your birthday, all right? So you are going from 1 year old to another year, all right? You're going year by year, all right? You could also say, for instance, some form of going from a youth to a young adult. So the 21st birthday is a very important event in many of your lives, many of our lives. Okay, so these are all milestones, right? So transition from one stage of life to another is a repeated point. Okay, now repeated M. Process of self-improvement. This one quite simple. All right, it's a direct idea of M itself. Okay, where's my M? Okay, personal growth. Okay. Now, ritualistic behavior can improve social bonding. Okay, again, this is the idea of community. So it's a repeated B. So nothing here. Okay. Now you really you don't really know what kind of where the repeated points are going to be. It really depends on the passage itself. What you need, therefore, to do is to really train your reading of the passage and your ability to see the points, whether or not they are similar or not. Okay. Okay, so the next point, group rituals indicate that members are like-minded and share certain values which promote an atmosphere of trust. Okay, so over here you have the promote an atmosphere of trust. Okay, now if you didn't keep the like-minded people, right, then it really feels very awkward, right? You're going to say something like rituals promote an atmosphere of trust. Yeah, but between who, right? Amongst who, right? So you need to keep the context in order for the point to make sense. And so that's why context is important. When we say context, all right, you need context in order to make some of the points clearer. Okay, so context that makes a point clearer should be kept. Maybe the who, the time, the location, for which groups, etc. All these contexts are important. Okay, so promote an atmosphere of trust. So encourage. Now trust just faith, all right, amongst those with similar beliefs. Okay. R, Beyonce again, leads to a perfect performance. Okay. Now, when we look at the context, right, it's Beyonce with a crew. Now, this kind of performance, therefore, is related to the idea of work, or professional. So that's where the context will give you some idea, all right, as to what kind of performance it means. Okay, so work performance, so flawless work or flawless professional outcomes. All right. And the last one, S. Okay, in the face of danger, right? So again, in the give you a context here. When in times of danger, all right, group cooperation may be a matter of life and death. So all these ritualistic rituals encourage teamwork. Okay, and that can help protect you during risky situations. All right, and that's the ending. Okay. So again, this is a repeat, all right, about how teamwork can protect oneself by uniting us. All right. Now going on to AQ, For this particular AQ, I want to talk about some tips for you guys. Okay. Now, I was listening with great interest to what Ms. Tan said about value judgment, and I do think that many of us, we may not yet have this idea that AQ is about assessing the validity, all right, of the author's point. Now, I will stop sharing this one. I will share with you the examiner report, okay, and you can see what they view as weak responses. Okay, so over here, weak responses offered lengthy quotations followed by a restatement of the material, a brief agreement of disagreement, okay, and supported by limited examples. Okay, so a weak response is something that doesn't really give much value to your evaluation. All right, you are just lifting, all right, from the passage. You are summarizing what the passage is, what the argument is about, and then you just give very, very thin support, all right, or analysis. Okay. Now, note that weak responses are more descriptive than analytical in style. Now, this is something that they repeated again and again. All right. If we look at this 2018 examiner report, all right, descriptive means you list examples. All right, you just list examples and then you basically do a point, example, and you link back. Now, this is very harmful for your marks. All right, and they suggested ways of improving it. All right, which I'll go through right now. Okay. So remember, do not be descriptive. Learn to analyze. And what do we mean by analyzing? Okay. Now, when we look at EV, right? Okay, you can think about EV as judgment. Okay, so when we look at EV, these are some suggested approaches. Okay, I'm going to show you how they manifest themselves. So when you look at shifting beliefs and practices, right? You can use them to explain why. So, for example, all right, if you recall our prelims, right? You can actually say something like, the value of university degrees has fallen, not because the degrees are getting more and more expensive, and we find that the returns are not as good anymore. But really, you can say that, hey, currently our belief system is that there are multiple pathways to success, right? And therefore, this may have reduced the value of a tertiary qualification of Okay, so something like that can work. So you can look at current evolving beliefs and practices and use that to evaluate, all right, an author's argument. You can also, for instance, in the 2022 A-level paper, look at how smartphones have changed the way we personally practice, all right, personal space. The idea that mobile phones these days give us essentially a mobile bubble that we can move around in. And you can, in fact, then go into a personal opinion and think about whether or not this is something that is or should be continued or should not be continued. So, for example, if you think that this is very beneficial, you can say something like, yeah, these mobile bubbles are very important for us, actually. All right, even if we may bump into a few people along the way, like, because our heads are all looking at the phone, but it provides a safe harbor for us, a kind of like a me cave or me time, all right, in a very fast-paced environment. We are always out. We are always outside these days, right? And so all these personal spaces brought about by all these mobile phones, right, are quite useful for us. Right, allows us to take a break even when we are in the crowd. Okay, so you could do that as well. All right. You can look at current measures. All right. For points particularly that maybe looks at problem, or you can look at current measures and evaluate their effectiveness. Okay. You can also look at our current measures, maybe governmental measures or NGO measures, or even individual movements or efforts, right? To see how we are encouraging something, all right, that is seen as good to have. Okay, so green movements, etc., and so on and so forth, depending on the point. All right, so these suggestions are not to be like wholesale applied and cut and pasted. Okay, you have to really think about them and before you apply them. Okay, different groups, standard, right? Different groups, you look at the reactions of society using different SES levels, using different age groups, using different gender groups or ethnicity, etc. All right, minority versus majority. Okay, you look at past versus present. You can look at benefits and harms. Okay, even look at present, change, future over here. How presently this is the case, but things are changing and the future might be different. Okay, now I will give you some examples using the AQ points itself. All right. Now for the intro, okay, given that this particular question, the author, I think, if I'm not wrong, let me bring up the AQ question. Okay, discusses the benefits and detrimental effects of rituals in our lives. So kind of like, yes, she's leaning towards beneficial, but she also acknowledges the detrimental impacts. Okay, so you have to take a stand. Okay, so for me, I took the stand of how it is more beneficial, more advantageous. Okay, but you do note that I do a bit of a measured stance. So as long as we use them appropriately, then rituals bring more advantages. So it'll be quite good if you are not simplistic in the way you're phrasing your stance. Okay, so be a bit more measured, a bit more nuanced. Okay, now let us look at the first point. So I use the reinforce a sense of community and common beliefs. Now, I think the difficulty, some of my students, when they were doing this AQ, they couldn't see how rituals were reflected, all right, in our daily lives, all right. But you can look at, for instance, class greetings in schools, or you could even look at parents leaving the best part of a dish for their children. Now, why are these rituals? Now, if you look at the definition of rituals, right, they are repetitive symbolic behavior. So it is something that people do and practice all the repeatedly. Okay, so things like that can be considered a ritual. All right. So, here, then you can look at how all these rituals reinforce the ties between teachers and students, between parents and children. So forming that kind of community. All right. Now, if you want to continue evaluating, first off, you can explain why. Why are we behaving this way, right? So the causal. So using SG characteristics, you're looking at the causality. So despite increasing westernization, you could talk about how, despite we are becoming more and more westernized, you can talk about the concept of Asian values, all right? And even you can talk about Chinese values of respect. In fact, I think our school's mission, is it mission or school values, has the 进攻自信, I have no idea, right? 进攻 something, all right? And you could perhaps even come up with a personal anecdote, all right, about how you as a SEP school student or you as a in Chinese school, all right, do reflect such rituals as well, okay, and your own experience with it, all right, and how it builds that kind of ties between you and your teachers, or you and the superiors, okay, in school, okay. Now, you could then follow it up with a personal opinion, all right, by looking at how really such measures, right, such rituals are quite useful, right? Community is something that we definitely want to strengthen, but at the same time, you want to perhaps point out some concerns that you have, okay, and then suggest a more measured approach in towards such rituals, okay, because I think the danger is that such rituals, if we take them too far, it might create a docile, overly respectful of authority, right? And so therefore, I think there's something for you to give some insight on. So these are what we give value. We call this value judgments. All right, and that is something that you all can consider. All right. Now you could look at cultural examples. All right, spring cleaning, preparing CNY reunion dinner, exchanging of red packets. All these rituals help to establish an ethnic identity. Okay, but at the same time, bring something to the tables, bring something new to the table. Look at, evaluate how these cultural rituals are shifting. Now, nowadays, a reunion dinner, in the past, right, I think we cook. But these days, right, my own personal experience is I've never cooked. My mom, bless her soul, I think she wants to cook, but we tell her not to, right? We say no time, I don't want to go and buy all that kind of things, right? Yeah, and then so stressful. Then so we call up a restaurant and we book it like 2 months in advance. So these are the ways that we are shifting, right? And I think Cambridge is quite interested in seeing all these very unique reactions from Singaporeans. I think because they're Caucasians, they like to look at how their old colony is doing. They're always interested. Yeah, lah. All right, they're very curious people. All right. Or you can talk about hiring of cleaning services for spring cleaning, which is something, yeah. Yeah. So you can look at how our rituals are shifting, but at the same time, because we are time staff, all right, so that's an additional EV field. But at the same time, you can still say that they are still working quite well to connect those who practice all these rituals, right? And you can go on to do 1 or 2 sentences more about that. And you can also provide a personal opinion. We should continue to practice them against this increasingly multicultural and cosmopolitan landscape. I mean, ethnic identity to prevent cultural dilution and all that lah. Okay, blah blah blah. So there are multiple ways for you to utilize the suggested approaches. Okay, but you have to find it out on your own. Okay, it doesn't matter which comes first or which comes next, but it's more whether or not you are cogent. I can see where you are headed and whether or not you're using them in a way that's convincing. All right. Now, talking about that, I want to tell you, when you all use Singapore characteristics, right, do not spam any random Singapore characteristic and try to draw the link to an argument, because sometimes it just doesn't work. I like the fact that you all know that we are kiasu, but you all use it in every paragraph, and it kind of gets like, sometimes I'm like, yeah, I can see like 40% relevance, but this is not really the most significant characteristic you should be talking about, and it's hell a lot of irritating. Yeah.
Rituals or not to follow rituals, then we need to be careful about something.
Yeah.
Like, must make sure you can find your screen.
Okay. Yeah. See. Yeah. So you need to spin something relevant. So if you want to use them, make sure that you can convince us. All right. If not, just use the most obvious or most directly relevant, all right, characteristics. So let me move on, since I only have 10 minutes left. I would like to do the NUS scandal thingy. Okay, so group ritualistic endeavors are extremely harmful. So here, all right, remember I'm generally in agreement, all right, with her positive view. So here, since I'm just going to disagree largely with her negative, her more pessimistic side, her more pessimistic views. So therefore, her pessimism is far less convincing. Okay, so while Johnson's praise was easy to support, I find her pessimism far less convincing. So here, Singaporeans, I would argue, have the common sense to not engage in such harmful practices. Now, the context was on cruel initiation ceremonies, like all your inductory programs. So I'm going to keep that context, and I'm going to look at NUS orientation camp scandals. There was a report, quite a few reports, and the girls actually commented that the programs were often sexualized, and there was one where they had to role play a man coming into a house to rape the girl. Yeah, and apparently it was why I don't know what it is. It's like 哥哥来了 and then 妹妹什么什么什么 something something, and then yeah, it's very, very scandalous. All right, but yet, right, since I want to disagree, so I say that they're isolated, which they are actually. And if you look at our own orientation programs from RV, I don't think
That's why we need a proposal.
Correct. Yeah, more independent bodies. Yeah, these are more independent schools, right? So yeah, but at the same time, right, there were guidance given. I think from NUS they actually said that there were a lot of guidelines. They were already briefed, right? That the program must be meaningful, but these are really just the actions of a few mischievous students or students who are immature. Okay, now you can then illustrate, all right, using your own experience as well. All right, you can bring in Mr. Cordiner if you want to. Okay. Okay. The last one I want to talk about will be the points on health. Okay, because I think this one I have a personal experience to share. Now, when we talk about rituals and health, right? I want to disagree. All right, but I would use past versus present. I would say that I don't know whether you all know about it, but when I was young and when I was sick, my mom would bring me to a Chinese medium. Yeah, we have quite a few. We have the Monkey King. We have this guy called Sammo Hu Gong. We have another lady called Heng Ling Ma. I have no idea who they are and all that. But what they do is that I remember I was beaten over the head with a straw fan, and then I was asked to. Then they would dance around and chant. I have no idea what they were doing, but supposedly it's supposed to get you get all the disease and all the bad stuff out of you, right? So you can talk about that in the past, all right? And even in modern times, I think just recently I thank Miss Go for this example, flower baths, right? Called Mandi Banga, and of course there's another one because I researched about it, I read about it. This Reiki, this palm healing technique, which we are still practiced, particularly during the pandemic, because of some of our distrust of the vaccines. Okay, but then you evaluate current beliefs. Hey, but most of us think that they're bogus, right? Most of us. All right, why? Look at current measures. Hey, we have HPB, and then there are measures about NSC. They're all based on science. The more you work out, the more you walk, the better your health, right? Your cardio and all that, etc. And of course, they always give us health screening advisory. And in fact, those people who are over 50, you get like $5. You pay $5 and you get a health screening. Okay, not very comprehensive health screening, but sufficient. All right. So you can talk about how no wonder when we are sick, right, we prefer to visit. So we are looking at the societal reaction, all right, to rituals and how we cope or manage with health. All right, what kind of rituals do we take last time, and why do they no longer hold value in modern society for most of us? Okay, so overall, therefore, Johnson's views are pretty positive. Yeah, and so that's my suggested approach. And I think actually we are 5 minutes early, so can we end?
Yeah, of course.
Woohoo! I have nothing else to add. Okay, Miss Go, can we end? Oh, she's not here yet. Okay. Okay, bye guys. Good luck for your exams. See you all for content lecture on Singapore next 31st, right? 31st of October. Yeah. Okay.
No, I think it's 1st October.
Oh, 1st November. 1st November. Okay, bye guys.
Bye.
Ciao.
1st November. Yeah.
1st November, yeah. All of them are leaving already. So you can just end meeting. Just end meeting. Just end. Yes.